For another installment of lettering in your planner. Today I'm going to be looking at daily planners. Now I'm sure that there are hella daily planners out there, but today we're going to be looking at the two relatively common ones and the ones that I happen to own. We got the Simplified Planner by Emily Ley and the Day Designer by Whitney English. A disclaimer, this is the January 2016 to December 2016 Day Designer in the regular size. And this is the August 2015 to July 2016 Simplified Planner. Any opinions I have on the quality of the paper, things like that, are applied to these. Maybe I'll do an update when the new ones get released, because I've heard that they may be updating the paper in them, but for right now I can't say that, so I'm just going to go with what I've got. To start with these, it really makes a difference which pen you choose to letter with, because the paper in a daily planner is thinner than the paper in a weekly planner because they need to fit more pages inside this book. I found that the Emily Ley paper is slightly thinner than the Whitney English paper, but not by much. They're both pretty thin. The pen that you choose for lettering in a daily planner can make a big difference, more so in this style of planner than in a weekly planner with thicker paper, because the type of pen you use will have a much higher instance of shadowing, of leaving like texture on the other side, and so it's really important that you test some out and decide which one really works for you. I went to my old favorites, the Pilot G2s. This is a 7 and this is a 3/8. This is the super fine one. And you'll find that when you write with either of these, that they will leave a texture on the other side. So they'll shadow a little bit, but more importantly, you can, if you rub your finger on it, you can feel the pen marks. And that can be really irritating sometimes if you're writing. Then you have like the felt tip pens, and I grabbed a Papermate Flare and a Stabilo pen. And these are softer because they are the felt tips. So you're not going to get the texture on the other side, but you will get shadowing. Arguably, you may get more shadowing because there's more ink coming out of those. And then I grabbed a good old ballpoint pen. This is actually the new Planner Society kit pen, but it's a ballpoint pen inside here. And as much as I don't tend to use ballpoints in my planner, that's the least amount of shadowing, but there's still texture. But a ballpoint could be considered almost a happy medium between the gel pens and the felt tip pens. It's personal preference. If you don't mind the texture, then, you know, use the gel pens. If you would rather have a little bit of shadowing but no texture, use a felt tip pen, or use a ball tip pen if you can bring yourself to do it for your whole planner. I'm going to try and get some gel refills for this because this is gorgeous, but I just can't wrap my mind around ballpoint. If you want to do a kind of font that requires some thickening, you're gonna be coming with a lot of shadow. So use these fonts sparingly. I'm not even filling this in all the way because I want to prove a point. But use these kinds of fonts sparingly with like lots of shadow, because no matter what kind of pen you use, it's gonna start showing through on the other side. So look, you're getting shadow and you're getting that texture. You could, if you were handy, go in with a brush pen, but again, I wouldn't recommend it because you'll start getting the shadowing. But to be fair, the shadowing is really no different than the other kinds of pens. So if you're into using brush pens, like I said before, test them ahead of time to see what the bleed through is. Like this Pitt Artist pen didn't do a lot of bleeding, but because I only did one stroke, if I had to go back over and clean it up, like if I wanted to and like kind of thicken it up here, it starts to come through more. So basically in daily planners, one of the key to pen choice is moderation. Whichever one you use, try and get it right the first time. Don't spend a lot of time going over and cleaning it up, because it's gonna, at some point, the paper is gonna give way and you're gonna really be unhappy with the other side. I'm going to use a Papermate filler. Okay, so for actual lettering styles in the daily, you can kind of apply some of the same techniques as the hourly planner because it's an hourly layout. You actually have more space to work with. So let's say you go to work between 7 and 4. So you could do a huge, you could get some really giant lettering on with it if you really wanted to. And again, this would only work with short words. And you could even dress them up a little bit if you wanted to. That's a way to add some fanciness. I'm not a fan of this look, but it's a way to take up a bunch of space with a bunch of lettering. I'm not going to bother keep going because you get the idea. And see, by not doing tons of shading, the shadowing on the other side's not that bad. For another way to use the same principle of filling in that big space, but just using more words, you could add in smaller fonts. I'm not going to fill any of these in because ain't nobody got time for that right now. Just utilizing whatever fonts you know how to do. Putting in, notice I'm being super sloppy because that's how many fucks I give right now. But grind for the man. And there, it's a weak line. Whatever. But you get the point. You can fill in it with a big spot if you don't need to use those hours for appointments or whatever. Now, you also can do the same thing in your to-do list. Like if you have something, if you have your regular stuff, but then you also have something huge you have to swallow, you could be like if you're like me and you need to clean your pantry, you can make it really big in your to-do list. I won't comment on the state of my pantry or on the state of my lettering right now. I'm really not feeling this situation. And then put the rest of your other shit on your to-do list because that'll show that this one big thing is your big thing that you need to take care of. One of the things I really love about the Emily Ley Planner is that these dinner and notes boxes on the bottom are tall, which for lettering is really fun. If you want to just leave yourself a note, you want to do something really fruity and inspiring, you could go in and add your lettering. Imagine these thickened down strokes were all filled with color. I should rename this the half-assed planner lettering situation because that is basically how I'm feeling right now. But you could add your big thankfulness or whatever. You have room to play. If you really want, if you didn't need to make a big list for dinner, you could just, let's say, for example, you're having the way baseball nights in my house generally go. Make your dinner really big, and then you can go through later and dress up each of the letters however much you want to. These spots give you a lot of room to play. And you can use them as utilitarian as they need to be, or you could use them to make some fancy shit, right? That's one of the things that is awesome about these kinds of planners. If you're going to be doing just you have things like laundry that you want to do in a 1 hour time period, but you really want to make it look fancy, that's when you want to take advantage of things like elongating a script, and then you can always go back in later and dress it up if you want to. Or you could just take your regular handwriting and dress that up if you want to. A little bit of thickening. Or if you're like me and that shit's too much work, you can use your regular handwriting and just within the confines of the line just start alternating up and down in the letter, where you're placing the characters. It doesn't look boring and super like regular. It looks fun and, you know, like you're a cool mom. Anyway, those are just some ways to utilize, like, even like one regular line of text can look kind of fun if you just stop and go a little slower and be a little bit more purposeful with what you do. I really hope you enjoyed these tips for how to letter in a daily planner. I don't use a daily planner on the regular, and when I do, it looks really sloppy and terrible. It's just a scrawled to-do list. But I know that a lot of people like to use these for their regular planner, and these are also a lot of fun to dress up with washi tape and things like that. But this is just for lettering, so I hope I gave you some good ideas on how to utilize the wider kind of format of your columns in a daily planner. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you next time.